Hey guys, I'm the Nostalgia Kid. I remember it and you should too. So today I am talking about the entire Alien franchise. Now I've talked a little bit about the Alien franchise before. Back when Alien Covenant came out, I explained how it was originally supposed to be Prometheus 2. I even talked about how Neil Blomkamp was in talks to do a full-fledged like Alien 5, but it wound up falling through like literally within weeks of Alien Covenant coming out. And then obviously later that same year, I believe it was that year, or may have even been like a little bit before, in 2016, when Disney officially like bought Fox's movie studios. Hey guys, editor me checking in. So the Disney Fox merger started in 2017, and the movie Alien Covenant also came out in 2017, a few months prior to all of this. So because of that, because of all those things happening, they have not done an alien-related movie, TV show, really anything, pretty much since then. So, why am I talking about a franchise that is currently basically on hold on pretty much every port? Well, pretty well, it's Halloween. I really want to do this video, so let's do a video. Now, let's actually start from the top with the original Alien movie. It came out back in 1979, and it was really good. It was like, it's, that movie was the most innovative movie in a long time, in my opinion. It had some of the best effects, practical effects too. I actually showed this movie to my nephew like a couple years ago, and the entire time he kept asking, like, "Is that CGI?" I'm like, "No." "Is that CGI?" I'm like, "No." "Is that CGI?" No. That whole movie was 100% practical effects, right down to the well, I'm not down to the face hugger. Well, yes to the face hugger, but still, I'm just saying they used a lot. It really is like a window almost into a bygone era back when they would actually spend the money and use really good makeup and use a combination of forced perspective and would use like I think they use like I saw somewhere they use like sheep bladders or something like that for the like interiors of the alien eggs, and I think I even heard somewhere that there was a few scenes where something didn't line up or something didn't match up, so they just had an artist paint something in such a way and then film something in such a way to where it looked good. And they used like force perspective to make certain areas look larger than what they actually were. And they even used, I believe it was directors' kids in one case, put them in smaller versions of the spacesuits and had them do a very quick scene. So they used all the original practical effects pretty much and pushed them to the limit in a lot of ways. It's a little bit like how the original King Kong movie that came out during the 1940s, it was using every single effect that was available to them at the time, from stop motion pictures to just it used a lot of really like the best of the technology at the time. And same thing with the original Alien movie. And amazingly, all of this stemmed from the idea that they just wanted to do a slasher movie in outer space. And I feel like there's a lot of other ways they could have done this, and a lot of ways they probably should have done this, but it wouldn't have been as grand. And it wouldn't have been as amazing, and it probably wouldn't have been as memorable. And it also wouldn't have left so much open for interpretation. Or maybe it would have, but it wouldn't have been as good. So, yeah, this one, I mean, there's not a whole lot more to say about it other than it being basically a masterpiece. Even, like, what, 50 years later now? 40 years later? So, it's just, it's brilliant. It's not untouchable, but still, it is brilliant in its own way. Now, moving on. The sequel, Aliens. I mean, this is another one where it's like, there's not a whole lot more to say other than the name. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. Because this has introduced, again, so many more iconic things. Like, obviously, Space Marines and Well, Space Marines is the big ones. We got that from this movie. We got so well. There's a lot of things we got from this movie, but and I'm blanking on all of them right now. I'm sure someone out there has a better list than me, but still, the big thing for me is Space Marines. Also, I'm tempted to say only watch the director's cut, but I feel like that's the only version that's really floating around out there anymore these days. To anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, the director's cut has a very different opening than the original theatrical cut. And there's a handful of scenes that just do not happen in the I guess theatrical version. Like there's a quick scene where it explains how Ripley had a daughter. Then there's another scene, I guess, that shows the colony very quickly before things happened on there. Certain things happen on there. There's like I guess a scene with a cat. There's just a lot of little things that happen in the first 20 to 30 minutes of the director's cut that apparently don't happen in the theatrical cut. But every time I've seen this movie on TV, I've only ever seen it with those scenes, and I've only ever seen that version. So, like, I don't know if I've already said this in the video, but I actually have the Blu-ray special edition. So maybe one of these days I'll get brave and watch the theatrical cut and see what I'm missing, or not missing, I guess you could say. Now we are getting enough of the masterpieces that was Alien and Aliens to the best dualities probably in movie history, in my opinion. And let's move on to the very difficult sequel that is Alien 3.
Stasis interrupted. Fire in cryogenic compartment.
Now, overall, please hear me out. Don't cancel me over this, but overall, I'm going to say that Alien 3 really wasn't. It's not the worst movie in the world, but when you compare it to Aliens 1 and 2, it has a lot to be desired. There's just a lot of things about Alien 3 that so many people have talked about already that I almost don't even need to bring it up. Like how, like, there's the big question of what's just. This is going to be a spoiler, but you know what? I'm not going to care too much for spoilers. I kept spoiler free for the first two movies, but this one I'm going to be a little spoilerific. So, at the end of the first two, they make it seem like all the aliens are gone. And then in this movie, they make it seem like it starts off with it implying that no, they're still aliens, and they just came back out of nowhere. How did they get where they are? I don't know. The movie doesn't explain it. And where does this movie take place? Back on the planet, one of the planets from the original movies? No, a completely different planet that had no aliens on it. It's actually a prison planet. And, like, that's just the beginning. Special effects wise, it's not the greatest. At least it was using some very first generation CGI, which was not perfect, but worked. It was using some like bad stop motion that's pretty easy to tell is bad stop motion. And oh yeah, honestly, this movie's probably it literally is a full hour, I think, longer than Aliens, the second movie. I think this one. I saw the director's cut of this one because for some reason I had a weird hankering to watch it. Thought it was better. I remembered it more positively than I thought. I watched it and I'm like, wow, I just wasted 3.5 hours of my life. So this movie's not perfect. But the bright side is you do get to see more aliens killing people kind of action. You get to see more Sigourney Weaver being a badass. And you do get to see a little bit more of this, like, expanded universe now at this point. And it's very, like, it's its own little interesting thing. And if they, like, did it feels very much like, well, to a certain degree it is. All I'm trying to say is that it really feels like they just grabbed a script and adapted it to Aliens, or the Alien franchise. And like I said, to a certain degree it is, because there were some producers kicking around ideas for a third Alien movie. One idea supposedly was some kind of new colony. Another was some kind of, like, religious cult. And to a certain degree, they kind of combined it, because there is a big, heavy religious aspect on this, like, prison planet. And obviously it's a completely different kind of colony. So they kind of combine those ideas, and but still, I say watch the standard version if it's shorter, whichever short version. If you want to watch it, it's definitely an entertaining watch. Um, but still, I mean, if you just want to watch it because you're an Alien fan, then watch it. But if you don't, you're not really missing out on anything special or important. Heck, even Sigourney Weaver, I think there was a quote where the entire time she was filming this movie, she really wanted them to kill off her character so that they couldn't do any more. Well, despite the way this movie ends, they still did more movies.
The emergency destruct system is now activated.
Now, moving on to the fourth Alien movie, because yes, there is a fourth Alien movie called Alien Resurrection. Now, this one's a little bit more interesting this time around, only instead of it trying to be more of a horror movie, it tries to be more action packed. So, similar to Aliens, and it's definitely an entertaining movie. It's not the worst in the franchise, in my opinion. That goes to Alien 3. Well, no, not even Alien 3 is the worst in the franchise, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. Um, but no, this one's actually pretty action packed. It's really fun watching Sigourney Weaver be back and being even more of a badass than she was the last time around. But obviously, this one did have its production qualities problems, just because yet again they were using some very early, very rough CGI that did not age well, and you could very much tell it's CGI. They at very least did stick to practical effects for the close-ups. There are some interesting ideas they play around with here. And also, this is one of those movies where I feel like it's actually a good thing to watch the extended version, or at least look for the deleted scenes. I only say that because apparently there's an alternate ending to this movie, where even then it's not really much of an alternate ending, it's just an extra couple minutes onto the movie, where after, at this point in the timeline, 200 years of being away from Earth, yes, this movie takes place 200 years after the events of, I believe, the first three movies. Sigourney Weaver's character does finally come back to Earth, but it's basically been completely destroyed. So, I feel like that this is the reason why the Alien franchise kind of went dormant for a full decade at that from then on forth. Just because it's like they really were not sure where they wanted to go with this movie or how they wanted to progress. And the director wasn't even 100% sure because obviously he had this whole other ending. The studio, so it was again another big question mark for the franchise. And everything went silent for a full decade. And then we had the Alien versus Predator movies, which I feel like kind of exist in their own timeline. Just because there's so many contradicting things with those movies. So who knows if those are connected to anything else other than each other. And then let's move on to the next little disaster in this Alien franchise. Now, let's move on to what I consider to be... Do I consider this the worst one in the franchise? Or is it Covenant? Let's go with this one. I want to say it's a real coin toss between Covenant and Prometheus, but the movie Prometheus is connected to the Alien franchise. To anybody who didn't know that, and to anybody who didn't sit through the end credit scene of Prometheus. So yeah, I feel like that's a very unusual thing, is that the movie Prometheus is connected to the Alien franchise, and unless you were like actively following the production of this movie or anything, you really wouldn't guess that this was connected to the Alien franchise at all. Other than that one, like I said, little end credit scene at the end where you see like a fully grown alien like pop out. Well, not even fully grown. It's more like a baby alien, if that makes any sense. But still, Prometheus, it plays on a lot of ideas. It tries to do a lot of things. It tries to have some kind of like god thing. But honestly, some of the most interesting things that happen with the Prometheus movie with this Prometheus movie happened with all of the press stuff they did. Now, to anybody who's wondering what I'm talking about, before this movie came out, they did some amazing and epic trailers that followed characters I'd never seen before. I didn't even watch these full trailers. They were just for like YouTube and stuff, and it's these really crazy, well produced like trailers that look like that's a scene right out of the movie, and I feel like that they should have mixed that scene in the movie somewhere. And I feel like this is going to be a growing theme for the like alien movies moving forward. And this movie's not, I want to say this movie's not bad, but there's just so many, it was supposed to answer a lot of questions. And it left me with nothing but questions. That's the worst thing about this movie. I have so many questions after this movie was over. And then Alien Covenant was supposed to do something to answer some of these questions, but kind of didn't. But there is actually an extended version of Prometheus that actually explains things a little bit better and a little bit more, and it is a little better, but even then, it's not that great. Now finally, we're at the end of this crazy train. Alien Covenant. I already did an entire video. I actually did that video before I even watched the movie, where I talked about how the whole movie was in production hell before it ever came out. And I saw the movie and it shows it was in production hell. Now, once again, the most interesting parts of this movie happen outside of the movie. It's like there's an entire scene where I think it's James Franco was in this movie for a hot minute. And if you pay attention to some of these like sleeper pods, you can see his like face kind of through one of them as he dies. But there's actually a video floating around on YouTube. I might put it in a link down below, where him and the rest of the crew, he was like the captain of this ship or whatever. Basically some kind of colony ship that's going out somewhere to set up a colony on the outskirts of space. And there's a lot of things that just don't get explained in this movie that you only find out in like a trailer floating around on YouTube. But it gets complicated quick. But basically, there's an entire scene where they're all sitting down having dinner, and they're talking about what they're gonna do, and it's like a very interesting and emotional scene, and you get to connect. And I feel like that scene and a few other things should have been the first 10 minutes of this movie. But instead, you have a character dying that you don't even hear his name. You don't know his name. All I know him is James Franco cameo number 1,000,000. There's also a whole other scene that shows characters from the previous movie, Prometheus, them actually finding a ship and going to where the engineer people, the people who created the aliens to begin with, and releasing the aliens onto them. That's not in this movie. I think there's a quick flashback that's shown later in the movie, and it's showing those two having like a relationship and not exactly a relationship, but still their like friendship or whatever you want to call it, and we don't get to see any of that in this movie. So watch those YouTube videos. There's even an entire string of YouTube videos that follows each of the characters that pop up in Alien Covenant, shows a little bit of their backstory. All of those videos exist on YouTube. Like, it would have been interesting if we had found a way, if the director had integrated some of these really crazy scenes in the first 10-20 minutes of this movie. That would have fleshed out everyone's backstory. It would have explained so much. And like I said, these scenes are maybe 20 minutes worth of additional scenes. And it would have made the beginning of this movie so much better. You have no idea what's going on when this movie starts. All you know is it's a spaceship. They're flying through space. There's people who are in super sleep pods, and that's about it. And then some kind of like solar flare happens, and then someone who you don't even know dies, and the ship is damaged, and you have to start waking people up to have them fix it. That's all I know in the first 10 to 20 minutes. And then later in the movie, they go to a planet. They discover that the alien from the original movie was created there. And that's about it. That's pretty much it. I don't know. It's a real whimper, in my opinion, of a movie. And suppose there were supposed to be sequels. There were supposed to be They were supposed to do like 4 sequels to Prometheus. Me editing again. So it turns out there was a prequel movie called Alien Awakening, which was supposed to happen, but as the recording of this video has currently been canceled. But like I said, the whole movie went through this movie and the movie before this went through production hell. The studio got confused on what they wanted to do. There were so many ideas tossed around, and then Alien Covenant came out. I can only assume it bombed, and then the whole Disney merger thing happened. And because of all that, this franchise has been on ice for quite a while. But in the last handful of years, there has been a lot more a little bit of a demand for an Alien comeback. I say that because obviously Disney did acquire Fox, and they don't want to they spent like $50 billion, something like that, on buying Fox and all their movie studios. And there's a lot of movies that are at Fox. And this is Disney we're talking about. They're not going to let those franchises sleep forever. They're going to do a reboot or a remake or something within a very short amount of time. Then there's actually also been talk of an Alien TV series that is currently either in production or in talks of production. I may have already talked about this earlier in the video, but still, I'm talking about it again. I'm just excited for an Alien TV series. Forget exactly what network it's going to be on, or if it's going to be on a streaming service. Like I said, I will. If I see anything, I will put it up right about here in the video, and if there's like a link to something, I'll put that down below. So I did my research. There's not a whole lot out there outside of this series is coming to FX. It's going to be based more around the characters than the actual aliens, and it's going to be on Earth. Not sure how it's all going to work. Also, to anybody who can't wait a year, 2 years, however long it's going to take for them to actually produce this Alien TV show, we actually may already have a little glimpse of what that show may be like. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, well, a few years ago, Fox, I guess right before the Disney merger, partnered with, I want to say either IGN or another website, and they basically brought in a number of up-and-coming writers and directors and made a number of alien short alien films. One of those ways that works, however you want to understand it. And I believe it's only like 5 little mini movies they basically made, each telling different stories, but they all take place in the Alien universe, and they are all very interesting and worth watching. So if you want a solid hour of like Alien content, go on YouTube. It's not hard to find. They're all free to watch, and you should be able to see some xenomorphs back. Ripley's not in any of these, but still, you get to see what a TV show may look like. They could simply focus in on one of the stories from this like short films, or they could focus on all of these stories from these short films, and maybe have the series finale or the last couple episodes of the series focus in on a handful of characters that survived throughout these little shorts, and just some ideas that I guess you could say that really gets you excited for what an Alien TV series would look like. Okay, well, I think that's just about all I have to say about the Alien franchise for right now. Obviously, I'm going to keep an eye out on this Alien TV series that they're doing. I'm a huge Alien fan, obviously. I remember it, and you should too.